Hello, hello. This is another guide for Teb, and from your friendly neighborhood Skizzers, which is me. See, he knows what's up. This is Uther. This is gonna be piano Uther. You got 8 keys to hit. It sounds a lot more daunting than it actually is when you consider how long most of the cooldowns are for this stuff. Basically, a 5 ulti cooldown lengths and then 3 skills you actually have to worry about. So, we're going to reset talents and go through them as we usually do. So level 1, I like going Conjure's Pursuit for globe regen plus the increase in your mana pool. Uther is not a hero that has an incredible mana pool at all. This is level 20, remember that's where we do our math, is level 20. So 4.5k, 690 mana. That's not great, but it's doable. You know, it's definitely doable. You're going to be able to cast everything in team fights. If it goes too long, you're going to run out of mana. So your options, in my mind, are Conjure's Pursuit or Hammer of the Lightbringer. Now, this is kind of situational. I think if you have a really dive-heavy comp, I think this is fine. But I personally like Conjure's Pursuit. It's safer. You're not really a frontline hero. You're going to get in there occasionally, but you're not going to be just sitting there right-clicking people all day. So Conjure's Pursuit is the goal there. Now,
I can use this.
he can use this, and you can use the knowledge of what these buttons actually do down here for his basic skill set. So, I'm going to go over that because I forgot. So your Q is Holy Light, and it's just a targeted spell within your cast range. Click on Hero, heal hero. Click on not you. And I didn't know you cannot target you. I thought you could. Hold on. Go attack me. Okay, yeah. I was right. Alright. a little bit of a stumble there. So you can heal target, ally, or heal yourself. Boom. Healed. You cannot heal yourself if you're full mana. Or full mana. Full health. If you're full health, you cannot heal yourself. So there you go. Your W is a line target skill shot that heals all allies passing by and damages enemies, and it also heals you as well. So I'm gonna have these guys hit me again, my trusty ogres. I'm gonna throw rocks and hit me with the club. Alright, good enough. So, to demonstrate, W, Holy Radiance. 65 mana. By the way, the first one's 90 mana. It's pretty costly, but it's also a pretty big heal for a single target. Holy Radiance, 65 mana. Heals, and then does a little less damage to all enemies in this line. So it'll heal me, because I'm casting it, and I don't have full health pool, so it'll heal me, it'll heal the ally, and then it'll hit the enemy. See those numbers now. So heal for 480, heal for 480, damage for 350. Typically, when using your W, you're not necessarily going like, oh, I'm going to damage the enemy, like, and you're doing that kind of stuff. Maybe if you're doing camps, or maybe if you can get a pick. But the standard option is to just aim it at an ally and use it, or aim it at multiple allies and use it. Uther once again agrees, he knows how his hero works. If you can, this is the ideal scenario where you're hitting multiple of your heroes and hitting multiple of their heroes. But don't hold on to your Holy Radiance just to try to do some damage also. Like, that's ideal, but if you can't hold on to that, just hit your friendly target. It's going to heal you too, so it gives you more sustain. Also, your Q really just should be targeted on friendlies, typically speaking. If you're really taking damage, then who's ever being focused, essentially, should be the target for your Holy Light. Like, if you're being focused, you're going to heal yourself. If your ally's getting focused, which is typically what's happening, you heal them with the Holy Light. Alright, now your E is the one time you're going to go in and try to hurt anybody. So your E is Hammer of Justice, does a little bit of damage, 8-second cooldown, 40 mana, and 0.75 second stun. So typically speaking, in a fight with Uther, if this is your enemy, and this is your ally, you're going to fight, right? Or if you're going to initiate whatever you want to do. Walk in there, stun, walk away. You don't need to sit there and hit him. Like, you have decent base damage, 171 or level 20. That's really not going to do a whole lot. Unless you have like hella lockdown, like you need really good lockdown if you're just gonna sit there. Or if you're doing a gank where it's multiple allies versus one hero and you know they're not gonna over-rotate into you. Because the worst thing for Uther to do is be over here, right, hitting somebody, and then that guy's 4 friends show up, and you're like, oh no, oh, what? There's too many people now, I'm gonna die because I'm out of position. So that's just something to keep in mind. You don't want to be out of position on Uther. He's very dependent on positioning. And Hammer of Justice actually is a pretty big area in which you can cast it. So, I mean, like, I get right up next to the target dummy. Like right there, should be able to cast it. Yeah. So right about there, you can cast it. Which is pretty good distance. So if you're gonna initiate on a gank, we'll just say there's no bushes down here. But if your team was over here, right? And remember, this is a 0.75 second stun. When the enemy comes by or whatever, you can stun them and then walk away. So pretend there's bushes right here. Okay, this is we're in fog. This is me right here. I'm the guy with the little plus sign. So heal me, please, thing. This is you, and this is a bush, and this is the enemy, and I don't know, we'll just use Alarak for an example, because that's who I've been playing a lot of. You can start the initiation. You can just walk in, stun, and walk back, and I'll jump in, and then you're in range, because I'm going to be like right here, right? Like right on the edge of him. You can reach me with your Q, you can reach me with W. You gotta keep in mind that these are 12-second cooldowns, which isn't that long, but it's still long enough that it's going to be hard to heal your ally if you just drop it for damage. So instead of doing freeze again, he knows. So instead of stun, damage immediately, unless you think you're gonna burst them down, I wouldn't do that. Otherwise, or what I'd do instead is stun, walk back a little bit while your ally engages, and then heal ally, and then shoot W. And you can kind of see like where their health is at based on how many squares they have, and kind of see where your heals are going. What I like to do is use my W before my Q. So if I stun somebody, my teammate goes in, he starts taking just a little bit of damage. I'll drop my Q because I'm gonna hit both my ally and the enemy with that, and then I can drop my Q later on. Now you can, you gotta have to judge it with Uther. You can be in a little bit. You can be attacking them. If you really think you can like burst them down with you and your ally, you initiate, you're punching them, and you're like A-clicking to like move with them, and then your ally's like, oh yeah, I'm over here, boom, hit, and you can keep going until the enemy's dead. But if you know that it's going to be a team fight, what you want to do is attempt to hammer and then walk away and then sit in the back and just heal from behind and try to keep your distance. If you do get jumped on, luckily Uther has this great passive that's upon dying become invulnerable spirit up to 8 seconds, and you can heal your allies with flashes of light, and it's really strong. So if you do get caught out, it's not the end of the world. Uther is very forgiving in that matter. If you die, you can still heal, and it's on a decreased cooldown, I believe, too. It's like 2 seconds or something for your Q, so you can keep hitting them with a lot more heal and get somebody back up to full before you go down. I believe it's 3 to 4 heals you can do. I think it's 4 heals if you do it as soon as you die, which can bring somebody back up in a team fight. It's pretty valuable. So don't worry too hard about your positioning, but to stay alive, just judge when to go back in. So after your initial stun and walk away, judge for yourself, like, should I go back in and right click? Is my right click gonna matter? Like, is walking over and right clicking this enemy hero, if you're going over here, is this gonna hurt you and your team more? Like, going in, are you gonna get jumped and then you're gonna die? That's not good for your team, because now they don't have the healer, now they're all gonna die. So it's just something that you have to think about as far as positioning with Uther. But typically speaking, like I said, You want to get in there for at least your W, and if you can stun stack it with something, that's the most ideal scenario. And then just W to heal your allies mainly, but if you can hit an enemy and your allies, do it. Don't hold on to it though. Make sure you're using it to keep your allies topped off. Keeping your allies topped off means don't let them drop. They should be near 100 health. Keeping them topped off. If they're only missing like 50 health, you don't need to blow a 12-second cooldown and 65 mana on that. But if they do start taking damage, you can heal them. Just to show you what these three do, I'm going to toggle off cooldown so you can see how much mana I'm about to burn. Agreed. Walk over, heal, heal. Now, this is at level 20. That's how much mana you're missing right there. You just used a lot of freaking mana. So you can imagine doing that within a team fight is pretty crazy. And you want to try to use your stun as much as possible. So if you can keep track of it, where you might stun somebody, you back up, you heal again, then maybe you come in and you go 1, 2, stun, walk away again. You know, so you have some options, but just using E, W, Q, E is half your mana. So you can see why Conjurer's Pursuit at level 1 is pretty important with that to get that extra mana. If you're feeling really strong, you can go in and do basic attacks, restore mana. I don't necessarily like that myself, but I think it's a viable option. So that goes over the basic talents. That was a large section of the video. So I'm going to go, or the basic abilities, and I'm going to go over the rest of the talents. So we're going Piano, Uther. We're going to be clicking a lot of buttons. So Protective Shield. Activate to shield an ally hero for 15% of their max health for 5 seconds. Cooldown is 60 seconds. So basically you can just shield somebody and it's super nice and they get a shield for a little while. Typically you want to use that at the start of a fight. Once you see somebody dive in, because there's no reason to preemptively use it. You can, if somebody gets caught out, you can also use it at any point. Just toggling the cooldown back on. So if you're about to jump in there, like if this is me, I'm about to jump in there. As soon as I hit the target and I'm starting to do damage, then you want to drop your protective shield. Now notice it's not that big of a range on this thing. It's about the same as your, it actually is the same as your Q. So this is me toggling back and forth. Your Q is just a little bit bigger, but not too much. So you want to still make sure you're in range. Uther's not a guy who sits way in the back. He's not like Chromie or anything. Next, you want to grab Cleanse. Cleanse is pretty self-explanatory. Target gets stunned, or rooted, or slowed. This is a huge radius, by the way. Boom. Cleanse. They're free, they're unmovable, or unstoppable, I mean. They are not unmovable, they're unstoppable for 1 second, you're good to go. It's a very, very strong talent to have. Your ulti, I'm going to just mention that Divine Storm is actually pretty good. I'm just going to pick it just to demonstrate. If you really don't think you're going to need the invulnerability, which is stupidly good, okay, and I recommend 9 out of 10 games doing that. Divine Storm's actually pretty good. It's really small, as you can see. It's just a... Alright. It's just a little bit bigger than your E. But the combination here, since it's a 1.75 second, and this is a 0.75 second, you can actually stun lock a single hero for just about 3 seconds? Or is it 3 seconds? No. Math is hard. 2.5 seconds, which is a long time. So, something you can do, like if you're on your mount, okay, on your poverty horse, you can, and there's a group of enemies, we'll just use these guys for an example, and you can get in there, and you just Divine Storm, which that was a bad one. So if you can get in, Divine Storm, you stun everybody, and then stun stack your E, you're going to be doing a 2.5 second stun, which is pretty significant to hit Divine Storm and then time it with your E. So in your mind you can just 1001, you know, count, or you can just get a good feel for it, which is, I typically go off a feel. If I hit this, that's pretty close to being perfectly stun stacked as far as timing goes, so if you ever want to watch the timing again. I wait till the tornado stun icon, that starts to disappear, and that's when I stun stack it. There you go. That's a typical stun stack. I might be like 0.01 or 2 off, but it's pretty close, just for a feel. So Divine Storm is definitely an option, but for sake of understanding your typical full support Uther, we're gonna go with Divine Shield, which has a huge cast range. You can be like way far away, and if your teammate's getting picked, you're just like boom, you are safe. And he's protected for a while. 3 seconds of vulnerability with 20% movement speed is super good. It's also really good if you're chasing or if you're gonna initiate. It's a 90-second cooldown, which is pretty big, but if somebody's like if you win a team fight, right, and you didn't even have to use Divine Shield, and they're running away, and you have like a thrall or somebody, and you're like, oh dude, you could totally catch them. Like in your mind, you're thinking you could totally catch them. You can call out to your team, hey, I'm gonna drop Divine Shield on you. You're gonna have movement speed. Go for it, right? You drop it on them, and they just book it, and they can knock them out really easily. So it's good as an offensive thing for the movement speed alone for 3 seconds. But in most scenarios, your teammate gets jumped on. He's like, oh no, I'm dying, you know. And so if your boy here, training dummy, he gets jumped on, and you're like, dude, this guy's gonna die, right? You can pop Divine Shield, heal, shield, and then you're doing. If you're gonna do full combo, I guess it would be your R, 2, 1, W, and Q, and no particular order, just R comes first. So it'd be like. You don't really need the unstoppable because you're invulnerable, but you can kind of stack that if you really want. Be like, if I do that one more time, cleanse isn't necessary in that combo, but it is good to have it at the very end of it. You can do something like that where once Divine Shield's wearing off, you drop a cleanse and just keeps them unstoppable for a little bit longer. It's a decent option. People don't typically use it that way, but it is a good option. You can also do something else where if they get stunned, you can drop cleanse and heal them. So 2-1 WQ or 2-1 QW. The order of these two don't matter as much, but so if your ally's stunned, you can your options are cleanse or ulti. If you think your ulti is going to be better suited later, like if they get jumped on immediately and you're quick enough, I would use cleanse. Just cleanse and shield, and then heal, and see where their health pool's at. And if they start to drop kind of low still, then drop your ulti. So those are like different scenarios where you can kind of use the different combinations in your advantage, for your advantage. Level 13. We're gonna go with Shrink Ray. Those are just kind of some theory crafted elements. Those are good on paper. You're just gonna have to like feel out games. Everything's situational. So Shrink Ray, activate to reduce an enemy hero's damage by 50% and movement speed by 50% for 4 seconds, 60-second cooldown. Typically, you just use this on whatever the big damage dealer is. There's like no one else you really use it on. So if they're Illidan's just wrecking face and he's like the main damage dealer, we'll use Butcher for an example because he's really relevant right now. So also not a huge cast range, kind of similar to your shield, which is kind of similar to your Q. So Q is this big, shield's a little smaller, and then you have your Shrink Ray, it's a little smaller, and then your E's even smaller. So when you use Shrink Ray, makes them all tiny, and whoever their damage dealer, like if this is Butcher, right, and he comes flying in, you don't use this when he's unstoppable, by the way. It won't do anything. So he flies in and he hits the target, and the target's like, oh, I'm stunned, and then you're just like, boom, Shrink Ray later. You're not doing anything for 4 seconds. So that's the most of the usage that you're going to get out of Shrink Ray is when the big damage dealer comes in, you Shrink Ray them, and they're good. The other time to use Shrink Ray is if you're in a fight and you didn't use Shrink Ray, okay? And somebody's running away, like from the team fight. So you fought over here, in this area. You just had this big old team fight, and you're like, oh crap, I didn't even use Shrink Ray, and we won that. And there's like one hero running away. You pop him with a Shrink Ray, and that guy is dead. At that point, the combo for Uther is Shrink Ray, stun. Okay? You don't need to even get that close, remember, because the stun's pretty far away. So Shrink Ray, stun. And that's going to slow him down significantly. You're going to have a lot of options. Your team at that point should be able to burst whoever that is. So those are your two scenarios for Shrink Ray. In Standard, you're going to be using it on the damage dealer, or you're going to be using it on somebody who's trying to get away from the fight after the fight's over. If you're going to have a big 5-on-5 team fight, though, you want to pop Shrink Ray as a priority. So if somebody's not dying on your team, like immediately, Shrink Ray is your first thing you cast. If somebody's dying on your team, you prioritize them. You prioritize healing them, cleansing them, Divine Shield, Protective Shield. You prioritize all these other abilities if somebody's getting jumped on and they're going to die. If you're the one doing the jumping, or if they did the jump and it's not really that successful, then you Shrink Ray first. Otherwise, you're going to be using Shrink Ray after you prioritize your heals. Alright, so hopefully that made sense. 16 is when Uther goes like Superman mode. It's Benediction.
Is its own reward.
Yes, it is. Activate to reduce the mana cost of your next basic ability by 50 and its cooldown by 10 seconds. So Benediction is like super situational, and its cooldown's 40 seconds. You're gonna have to like situational, not being like its pick, because you always pick Benediction, but situational as in when you're using Benediction. You can start a fight and you don't even need Benediction, let's just say, okay? And you just go in there and you're like, what up, Shrink Ray, stun, boom, killed my teammate, all good, okay? And that could be it. And you don't even need Benediction. You could, theoretically, use Benediction to... Sorry, I just got a Steam message. 2 Steam messages. You could theoretically use Benediction to make a double stun Hammer of Justice. So if you pop Benediction, alright, little disc thing goes off, can't do it again. You could walk up and stun somebody, and then stun them again, okay? Does that make sense? So I didn't hit E a second time, I just kind of talked about it. So if you hit Benediction, and you're going to go in on somebody, you can go boom, boom, and now they're stunned for 1.5 seconds off of one ability. So that's like an offensive use of Benediction, where this thing is actually free mana cost. I don't know if it actually refunds you, I'm curious. I don't think it would refund you. But we'll see. Oh, it does. It refunds you 10 mana. Okay. Because Hammer is 40 mana, and this reduces your basic ability by 50. So you actually gain 10 mana off that, and get a secondary stun. I'm going to put back on cooldowns here. So that's an option, right? You can also use Benediction in healing form. So dropping, maybe you want to get another Holy Radiance out really fast. So you start your team fight, pop Benediction, you heal again or do another damage. Or you want to get 2 Qs off, because your teammate's dying. So your teammate's dying, you Divine Shield, pop Benediction, heal, stun somebody, heal again, you shielded them, you see what I mean? So Benediction is good on anything. I typically use Benediction with your E for that initiation we talked about, or use Benediction with your Q if getting initiated on. That's typically how I feel. Those aren't set in stone rules. You could use Benediction offensively, like, or if you didn't even use it to start a fight. So if you're going to use it offensively and not use Hammer of Justice, you'd use it with Holy Radiance. If you're... I think it might work on your ulti. I've never tried this, so... Oh, right, basic ability. I'm retarded. Don't use that word, it's not nice. Basic ability, these 3. I'm sorry. That was my mistake, I'm not thinking. Also had a beer in me. But this information's okay. You know it's okay, you know it's me. So, you can use it to do a double Holy Radiance. You know, 2 seconds go by, you drop it again. I mean, there are a lot of options with Benediction. If you get jumped on, or if you don't even use it to start, you know, maybe they jump on your team, and you're like, you know what? I don't need that second heal. You can pop it and just stun them right off the bat. Like, you don't need to use this only offensively, this combo. You can use this defensively. You can use your Benediction and your W. You can use Benediction and Holy Light. You have plenty of options, but it's kind of your bread and butter. So you want to get used to feeling out a situation in the split second it happens, and get used to it enough that you're dropping your abilities accordingly. Excuse me. And level 20, I think I've always gone redemption. It gives you an extra life. After Eternal Devotion, which is your passive, ends, return to 50% of your maximum health at your spirit's location. It has a 180-second cooldown. So pick up that. I mean, I can't really demonstrate it to you without just sitting here forever and taking enough damage to die. But it's pretty self-explanatory. You die, you keep healing, you come back to life, you keep healing. I mean, it's pretty easy going. So that's the basic buttons. So, like I said, Benediction kind of makes your combos weird. You're now activating abilities based on what's needed versus a combination. Where before, you know, we talked about if somebody gets jumped on, you can just cleanse or you can ulti. And then you want to pop your one, or I shouldn't say your one key, your protective shield, and then Holy Light, Holy Radiance. Now you have the options of, hey, maybe I should shrink ray the guy coming in, and then use Benediction, and then double stun somebody. Or, hey, I should shrink ray somebody so they get lowered, just use my E, use Benediction, and then double heal my ally. You know, so there's tons of different options you have. The one thing I want to point out is if an ability feels like it should be on a different key, you can just move them in the middle of the game. So click and hold, and you get this little ability icon, if you see it on my mouse, and you can drag it anywhere. You can replace them 1 to 4. You can put this on 6 if you wanted. It could look like that. So you can move these around, and it's just depending on what you get used to. For Zool, I'm not going to load him up for this, but for Zool, I have Bone Spear on 1, and the armor thing he gets at the start at 2. So what my hotkeys look like if I was Zool at the beginning is as soon as I spawn in, I take this and put this on 2. So that's what my loadout would look like on Zool, because 2 is where I have the muscle memory for using the shield.
Is its own reward.
So you can move these however you want. I always have cleanse on 1, so something like my setup might actually be something more like this, where I move protective shield to 2 and cleanse on 1, because all my other supports I put cleanse on 1 that have cleanse available. So at the beginning, or once I get protective shield, right, so my order of business would kind of be like, okay, I got protective shield, drop that on 2, play in more, cleanse, keep it on 1, play in more, shrink ray, and then benediction. Typically you don't have this many actives, so you can kind of play with them. I'm pretty sure this is exactly what my Uther binds look like, though, typically. And it's not that daunting. You just have to move your hand accordingly. You know, when I play, I typically either have just my fingers, my index finger on E, middle W, ring Q. Sometimes I have my fingers on WASD, so my ring is on A. I take that back. This is actually how I have it. My middle finger's on W, my A's on, or my ring finger is on A, and my index is on D, which there's nothing activatable there. But this is kind of more of the layout I do, because I tend to A-click the ground a lot. So I kind of have my finger set up that way, and then if I need to use something, I move my index finger up, or, you know, ring finger, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I hope that made sense. I try not to ramble too long. This is going to be a really freaking long video I just looked over. I tried to talk and get a lot of information. Uther is kind of one of those heroes where he's really easy conceptually, but your possibilities are kind of endless in situations, so I can't really go over every little explanation of everything, but I hope this kind of gives you a good general feel of what's going to happen while you're playing as Uther. So just a quick overview of all the talents again, why we picked them. Actually, before that, we're just going to go over all these skills, and then I'll go over the talent selection one more time, and that will end the video. So your Q, once again, heals a single target, yourself or ally. Your W is a line target, heals yourself and any allies in the line, and damages any enemies that are within the line as well. Your E, Hammer of Justice, is a stun. Holy Radiance is your W. Your R, Divine Shield or Divine Storm. Typically you get Divine Shield because it ends up being an overall better pick. It's just a targeting thing. You can use it on yourself as well if you're in a bad situation and you need to get out. And it gives whoever's targeted invulnerability and movement speed increased by 20% for 3 seconds. Your whatever keys you have in order, I'll just do in the order that you get it. You'll get Protective Shield, level 4, and that's a shield for your allies or yourself if you need it. And that's always a helpful little boost in health there. Your 1 key, or you're not, sorry, I just said I wasn't gonna do that. Next, at level 7, you're gonna get Cleanse, and then that stops, stuns or various forms of that, canceling stuns that have already been applied, etc. You know what Cleanse does. Shrink Ray makes somebody tiny, and their damage is halved, and their movement speed is also halved for 4 seconds. Benediction, activate it. Your next basic ability is decreased in mana by 50, and the cooldown is decreased by 10. You can use that to get Holy Light on a 2-second cooldown, Holy Radiance on a 2-second cooldown. Both of these not costing very much, 50, so Holy Light would cost 40, Holy Radiance would be 15, and Hammer Justice you get 10 mana back and you have a double stun. And that's it really. I mean, that's all I can think of as far as basics with Uther. This is a really long video. I apologize for that. I know you're going to say it's not very long, but I do apologize for the length of this video. Like I said, it's unedited. I just kind of winged it. But I wanted to explain everything I feel that is important on Uther in the moment. And yeah, so let's just go over the talent selections of what you're picking one more time. I'm not going to say why. That's from early in the video. And we'll call it good. So level 1, Conjurer's Pursuit. Get that mana. Level 4, Protective Shield. Shield those allies. Level 7, Cleanse. Make somebody unstoppable so you don't die. 10, you could get Divine Storm if you're feeling really good about yourself, but typically Divine Shield.
A wise decision.
See? Uther knows. He just knows what's up. Shrink Ray level 13, make people tiny and useless. And 16, Benediction, make you super beast mode amazing. And then level 20, Redemption, and Redemption just makes you come back to life. So yeah, that's it. That's Uther. And I hope this was a good little mini guide for you. This was actually a very long guide, but I hope you feel like you understand Uther pretty well going into the games. Now you're just going to need to practice clicking all these keys. That's really all it comes down to. Coming from Dota, it's much easier for me to hit 6 active abilities plus 4 keys, which is, you put 2 more things there. Because I'm used to that, but for somebody getting kind of into hitting a lot of keys, it's just something you're going to have to practice. So I hope this was a good guide. Hope you destroy your enemies, and you have a good time. That's not a combination, by the way. I just hit all my keys. That's not a combo I did. But see you later. Right, Uther. Let's get a goodbye going.